All right, what's going on? So another day of work in the garage on the Z. So today I plan on getting this hole right here patched up, new metal put in there, getting all this cut out. I'm not just gonna patch this hole, gonna do it right, get rid of this whole thing, because I'm sure now this piece of metal, for those of you who don't know, I'm pretty sure it came from the factory. It was just like it on the other side, and I don't think some other person laid those welds in there. So gonna get rid of this top piece of metal because I'm sure it's rusty behind there. So I'll probably cut, of course, along the top, back here, cut out the bottom, and go up here. I'll probably try and stop right on the edge of it. I've already done this repair on the other side, and it was exactly the same. So there's the repair. So that's basically how it's going to look. So let's go ahead and get that rust cut out and see what we have left. Alright, so there it is, fully cut out. I went around and with the grinder and just ground off all the rough edges, and I took the little angle grinder I got here, cutter, smaller, so I was able to get into this area here without that big disc. So now I've got this bottom piece pretty smooth. I'm gonna leave just a little bit of existing metal there, just so I have something to push against, and just leaves a little bit more to weld to. I'm just gonna place the metal on top of this, and so it's just gonna be like a panel that covers it, and then I'll weld the top and the bottom of it. I mean, that's probably what 95% of the people do. Of course, if I was a professional restoration body shop, they would cut all this out, get a perfect piece to fit in there, and I mean, have all this cut perfect to fit, and then butt weld a piece in there. You wouldn't even be able to see that there was a piece welded in. But when I get done, you're not really going to be able to tell either, because when I weld all this up, I'll grind it down. There'll just be a little bit of where you can see, and by the time you put the POR 15 or whatever I decide to use for underbody coating, you're not going to see it. So it's going to work. It's going to do the job. So let's go ahead and take a grinding disc and start getting some of this old underbody coating off back in here, and then start cleaning this metal up, getting it prepped for welding. Also, I knew this was going to happen, but all of the shavings and the dust, a lot of it went back down into the rail back in there, so there's a lot sitting in my freshly put on frame rail. So now I need to go ahead and spend a little bit of time getting the air hose and the vacuum and just spraying with the air hose and having the vacuum in there and try and get as much out as I can, because soon, hopefully very soon, I'm going to fill all the frame rail, front to back, with internal frame rail coating. I've been itching to do that. I really want to get that done. So expect that in some future videos. This always comes in handy in hard to reach places. Alright, so I just got this piece cut out. Obviously it's going to go up in here. It's a good length. It fits in there well. Just a little bit overlap on each side, which is good. Now, I mean, it's just a rough square. So now I just need to cut down this edge to get the angle that I need to fit down in here. Alright, so hopefully you guys can hear me. I just got a new head mount for the GoPro, so hopefully this will give you guys a little bit different experience to the videos. So I am going to go ahead and start marking this up and getting it fit in here, so let's go ahead. Just go ahead and start by cutting that off first. Got the good old shop dog. Hello. Okay. So it needs to come down a little bit further. So we can actually cut quite a bit more off. So alright, so we'll go ahead and trim a little bit off from here. Might be too much. That should be alright. Now it looks like I'm going to have a little bit of gap down here, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that yet. Obviously this is going to be bent over. Well, that's still going to leave me with a little bit of gap. I could try and trim some of this so that this part will come down some more, but then I'm gonna lose my really straight line here, so that's not something I really want to do. Well, let's get this cut out. There it is in here. This is where it's gonna go. I'm gonna need to clean up some of the underbody coating right there in the corner so I can weld to it. Obviously there's a gap there, but once I'm going to tack it down and then hammer it so it fits flush. That's the same thing I did on the other side. So now I'm just going to go ahead and clean all of this coating off of the metal so I can weld to it, and we'll get it tacked in. Alright, I got those 3 tacks in there. I moved my clamps around, so I moved them towards the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and try and put a tack back in the corner, a few down here, maybe one more up here, and then I'll be able to start banging this down to get it to form to the curve. So I got it clamped in here. Take some of the light away, but I got it clamped, and it's really tight right here, so I bent this metal in a little bit, so it's looking pretty good. Looks like I'm gonna have a little bit of gap there, but that's not a big deal. I can definitely fill it. And it's still got some more bending to do to reach this curve, so I got it clamped back here. I'll put a tack right in there, and then I'll work my way forward a little bit more, put a tack here, and then maybe start hammering it down. Man, I don't know about you guys, but it just feels so nice and relieving whenever you've got a good heat setting and a good speed setting, and you just start laying super nice tack welds. I mean, you don't have to mess with anything. You know it's going to be a good job. All right, so there it is, all tacked in. You can actually see some smoke coming out of there because I just literally got done welding it. The tack's here. Now there's a little bit bigger gap than I would have liked. But that's really not hard to fill. That's not too outrageous. I mean, I'm just gonna lay some tacks over each other and then just see how many it takes to fill it and then weld it all up. So that's not really a big problem. I mean, it's you guys can do it however you want. Of course, I'm just showing you how I'm doing it. If you guys aren't comfortable with that, then you would need to shave quite a bit of metal off of here and get it all formed right to this little curve. But since I kept a straight piece of metal, that's why I'm getting that little gap here for this curve. So I mean, to me it was worth filling this little hole rather than going through and trying to do all these measurements, because if I would have done the measurements, who knows if I would have been able to keep this piece straight here. So I know it's going to be straight all across here. I'm just going to have to fill it right here. So let's go ahead and get weld it all up. Most of you probably already know this little hack, but my ground for my welder would not fit on here. It wouldn't really fit. I mean, there's not really anywhere good to put it. So what you do is you just take your clamp it on here in a good piece of metal, and then you clamp your ground to here, and it works just fine. So most of you probably knew that. If you didn't, this is a good way to get your ground out of the way where you're welding, and also have a clamp holding it in place. Alright, so I'm just about done getting it all welded in. Looks pretty good. I had some problems with this metal here since there was some rust up under it. Even though I had it clean here, there's rust up under it. So that rust kind of came through. It gave me a little bit of problems, but I was able to do a pretty good job. I got it to look like it was almost TIG welded in there, but with like the overlapping tacks there. So I've got a little bit more to do here and then back there. But as you can see, that hole is not there anymore. So you can't even tell. I mean, all of that is filled in. Can't forget to do up under here. I gotta do that. So it's almost done. Alright, so there it is, all welded in. You get a close up on the welds down here. It's all welded in there. If you guys are going to do this, I would recommend weld through primer. I don't know if it's weld through primer or weld through paint, but you spray it on there and you can weld it, and then you can be sure that it's not going to rust where your weld joints were. But I should be doing that. I just don't have any cans. However, I am going to be spraying all of this as well as the inside of the frame rails with internal frame rail coating from Eastwood. I've got 1 can per side, so that's gonna be plenty of enough. So I'll be spraying all of this, and then it comes with a little tube or nozzle that you stick down in a hole somewhere, and there's quite a few screw holes in the frame rail, and I drilled holes in the bottom to let water drain out, so I'll use those. But I'll be spraying internal frame rail coating all the way up and down this whole thing. So glad this is done. Looks good. I might go ahead and just sand some of this down that's sticking up a little bit. Otherwise, down here it's good. You're not going to be seeing it. It's going to be covered in like 3 layers of epoxy primer, then underbody coating, POR 15, things like that. So I need to go ahead and get this area welded up and closed in, but I got this done. So it's coming along. Appreciate you guys watching, and stay tuned for more. Leave a like and comment. I like hearing comments from you guys, seeing how your builds are going, and just like talking. So have a good one.